Coming up on this Monday edition of Daybreak, dozens of world leaders join over 1.5 million people as Paris shows defiance and unity after 17 people were murdered by terrorists. President Park Geun-hye will lay out her North Korea and economic-related policies for 2015 in a special New Year's press conference this morning. Plus, the United States and South Korea reject North Korea's offer to temporarily suspend nuclear testing in return for them halting upcoming military drills. Washington says Pyongyang's proposal was an implicit threat. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Monday, January 12th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to Daybreak. And we begin with the massive unity rally that has been taking place in Paris to honour the 17 victims of last week's terror attacks. Dozens of world leaders joined the march amid some of the tightest security the world has ever seen, as France remains on its highest state of alert. Son Jung-in reports.
French officials have described it as the largest march in the country's history. An unprecedented number of people, estimated to be more than 1.5 million, took part in a unity march in Paris holding Je suis Charlie or I am Charlie signs. The rally, led by relatives of the victims, began on Sunday afternoon at the Place de la République, a traditional location for demonstrations. Thousands of police and soldiers were deployed to maintain security and protect those taking part. The march was held in response to the cold-blooded killings that began last Wednesday in the French capital when two brothers, Said and Sharif Kouachi, raided the offices of the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. It ended on Friday with the brothers and another gunman being shot dead by police, but only after more people had lost their lives. In total, 17 innocent people were killed during the 3 days of violence. Showing support for France, more than 40 world leaders joined Sunday's march, linking arms in an act of solidarity. Those in attendance included French President François Hollande, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and Ukraine President Petro Poroshenko. The three gunmen responsible for the attacks are dead, but investigators are still trying to track down the girlfriend of one of them. 26-year-old Hayat Boumediene, who was described as armed and dangerous earlier, is thought to have fled France at the time of the killings. Reports suggest she may have entered Turkey en route to Syria. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
And a German newspaper that reprinted Charlie Hebdo's Mohammed cartoons last week has been firebombed. Police say that an incendiary device was thrown at the Hamburg offices of Hamburger Morgenpost early Sunday local time, and a fire broke out in the paper's archive room. There were no people inside the building at the time of this attack. Police have arrested 2 suspects. Investigations are underway to see if the attack has any connection to the Charlie Hebdo attack. In other news, tensions between North Korea and the United States are bubbling to the surface again. First, Pyongyang offered to temporarily suspend nuclear testing if Seoul and Washington cancel an upcoming joint military drill. The US, in response, called Pyongyang's offer an implicit threat and said the exercises are going to go ahead as planned. Hwang Sang-hee reports.
The United States has rejected North Korea's offer to temporarily suspend nuclear tests in exchange for an end to joint military exercises between Seoul and Washington. This comes after North Korea's foreign ministry said Saturday that it had made the offer through a relevant channel a day earlier. U.S. State Department spokesperson Jen Psaki said Saturday North Korea's proposal that inappropriately links routine military drills to the possibility of a nuclear test is an implicit threat. She added that a fresh nuclear test would be a clear violation of Pyongyang's obligations under multiple UN Security Council resolutions, as well as its own commitments as outlined in a joint 6-party statement in 2005. The joint military exercises between Seoul and Washington, scheduled for sometime between February and March, have long upset Pyongyang. North Korea claims it's a practice for war, while South Korea and the US say it is purely defensive in nature. A halt to the annual drills was also a precondition to better inter-Korean ties laid out in North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's New Year speech. Psaki reiterated that Washington remains open to dialogue with the North, but only if the regime ends all threats and takes the necessary steps toward denuclearization. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea has echoed the United States in rejecting North Korea's offer. An official at Seoul's foreign ministry said nuclear tests and military exercises are not something that can be linked, adding the North has an obligation to adhere to UN Security Council resolutions. The official also urged Pyongyang to come to the negotiating table over its nuclear issue with some sincerity, reiterating that the door for dialogue is always open. Seoul and Washington say the exercises will go ahead as scheduled. Korea has slammed Japan for justifying visits by its leaders to the Yasukuni War Shrine. The Japanese government said during a cabinet meeting last week that its citizens believe the shrine is a symbol commemorating the nation's fallen soldiers and that the country's leaders should pay their respects there. Seoul's Foreign Affairs Ministry said Tokyo is backtracking on history and that its actions will only further isolate the nation from the international community. Now, this shrine that you can see there honors thousands of Japan's war dead, but also several Class A war criminals. Naturally, visits to the shrine by Japanese leaders draw angry reactions from Korea and China, who were victims of Japan's imperialistic aggression. President Park Geun-hye is expected to lay out her policies for 2015 in a New Year's press conference on this Monday. The event will be the second of its kind since she took office nearly 2 years ago. In her speech, President Park is expected to unveil her policies on North Korea and propose ways to revitalize the South Korean economy. This year is the last in a 3-year economic revitalization plan President Park laid out when she took office. Attention is focused on whether the president will talk about reshuffling her closest advisors following a document leak scandal that rocked the political arena. We are going to have live coverage of the president's press conference on Monday morning. You can watch that at 10 a.m. Korea time.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Now, Korea is expected to record its 4th consecutive tax deficit this year. A parliamentary report shows the budget deficit could surpass an earlier estimate of $3.1 billion for 2015. Lower than predicted economic growth and very low inflation are viewed as the main factors at play here. The National Assembly Budget Office back in October last year predicted the government would collect some $200 billion in taxes in 2015, with the expectation of a tax revenue shortfall of over $2.7 billion. But the report shows tax income will be lower than that, as the government cut this year's growth projection from 3.8% to 3.5% amid falling crude prices. Now, it looks like the government's efforts to revitalise Korea's property market have had the desired effect, as home sales hit an 8-year high last year. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport says the number of housing transactions surged 18% to surpass the 1 million mark for the first time since 2006. The number of housing transactions in Seoul soared 32.5% over the previous year to more than 148,000 last year. In rural areas, transactions were up more than 11%. Analysts say measures such as Relaxed rules on mortgages and a 10-year reduction in the minimum age of housing units eligible for reconstruction breathed some fresh life into the market. Now, we'll be getting to the weather very shortly, but it's mid-January, so as you could expect, it's very cold here in Korea, and the sub-freezing temperatures usually mean surging heating bills, which add an extra expense to households already struggling to get by. So, we have some tips for you on how to better insulate your home and hopefully save a little bit of cash. So, here's our Paulie.
Shielding your home from the frigid outdoor weather can be easy and cost-effective. A roll of bubble wrap is one of the most popular items used in Korea to help keep indoor temperatures warm in the winter. But is there something better? This new product on the market aims to answer that question by using a spray-on type of insulation. In a comparison test, one window pane is covered with bubble wrap and another sprayed with the liquid-type insulator. 30 minutes later, the surface temperature of both windows are measured with an infrared camera. The window with the bubble wrap measures 18 degrees Celsius or 3 degrees higher than before, while the one sprayed with the organic silicone reads 19 degrees. Overall, both show welcome results without costing a fortune. Effectively managing heating systems can also lower monthly costs. This device, called Smart Valve, helps regulate room temperatures automatically. The wax compound is designed to expand inside a gas valve in the presence of excessive heat, which blocks off the pipe. It reopens again when the temperature drops as the compound contracts.
Sometimes I forget to turn off the heater before I go out, and then my gas bill skyrockets. But after using the Smart Valve, I'm saving 30% on the average cost.
The device can also centralize heat to a specific area, helping to reduce energy usage.
Unlike a heating system that detects the air temperature, the Smart Valve measures the temperature of the floor, thus enabling to balance the room temperature in a more effective way.
These are just some of the many simple and efficient ideas that can help you keep warm during this chilly winter season without breaking the bank. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Now, on this edition of Industry Insight, we're going to take a look at a local e-commerce startup that has broken away from the rest to become one of the country's leading online retailers. It's called Coupang, and its innovative strategies and breakneck growth have attracted visitors from both home and abroad. Connie Lee has more.
It's a click-click here and a click-click there. And whether it's a box of diapers, a bag of coconut flakes, or a new winter jacket, you can get the item delivered right to your door before the end of the day.
안녕하세요. 쿠팡에서 왔습니다.
It's all done through Coupang, which promotes itself as the country's leading e-commerce company. The 4-year-old company has grown quickly. In 2011, it went from 1 million subscribers and $20 million in transactions to 25 million subscribers and more than 180 million in transactions today. Most shoppers use its mobile app, which was the #1 shopping app last year, beating out competitors like We Make Price and Ticket Monster. Coupang started out as a daily deal site by Harvard grad Bum Kim, but is now a full-fledged e-commerce company with more than 2,000 employees who enjoy an open office space in Seoul that looks like it belongs in Silicon Valley. The Korean startup has attracted U.S. investors and most recently raised $300 million from a group led by BlackRock. Investors point to Coupang's same-day service model, mobile expertise, and online offerings as the features that make the company one to watch. Coupang says it knows how to lure in the customers, especially to its mobile app.
You may think the secret is simply behind the design and layout, but in fact, there's a lot of technology and research that goes into this. We were able to keep up with that.
The company also says there's nothing like its end-to-end customer service, which involves using its own delivery personnel, including the Coupang Man. The Coupang Man does not fly, but his services are compared to that through the company's so-called rocket delivery. This may be the key to getting repeat customers.
It went from buying just necessities and grew into just buying basically everything.
I met with one avid user.
So a lot of times I'm not home when they're delivering something, but they always send me a message. They even take a photo, and then they send me the text message, this is where we left it. So I'm almost 100% sure I'm going to be getting the item that I received, which actually hasn't been the case when I've used other services.
Coupang has even given new life to businesses that have partnered with it. This online shopping mall, which specializes in trendy, feminine pieces, has seen its annual sales increase 20-fold after partnering with Coupang to sell its items.
The marketing and promotion of my brand through Coupang was incredible, led me to sell 10,000 items in a day. I've now expanded my business and created another brand.
As for Coupang's future, Willis says it wants to solidify its position as a top online retailer here in Korea and expand its delivery service before branching out to the world.
We hope that one of these days, people will look back and ask themselves, how do we ever live without Coupang?
Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Well, it's time now for a look through some of the other global headlines we're following on this Monday morning from Seoul. For that, we turn to Eunice Kim, standing by the news center. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Mark. Indonesian search teams will zone in on recovering the black box of AirAsia Flight 8501 later today after detecting promising pings believed to be from the black box. The country's search team coordinator, Tony Budiono, said Sunday Navy divers had discovered the pings about 30 meters below the ocean's surface and that the data and audio recorders appeared to be some 18 meters apart, wedged under the airliner's wreckage. Other officials, including Chief of Search and Rescue Bambang Solistio and AirAsia CEO Tony Fernandez, expressed more caution. Fernandez described the data as strong but unconfirmed in a tweet, adding that his thoughts were with the fuselage. On Saturday, rescuers managed to pull to the surface the plane's tail section using inflatable balloons, but did not find the flight recorders there. 32 of 48 recovered bodies have been identified so far, with 114 people who were on board still unaccounted for. Among those identified on Sunday were a Korean missionary couple. Indonesian police confirmed them as 37-year-old Park Geun-hye and his 34-year-old wife Lee Kyung-hwa. Head of the Disaster Victim Identification Unit, Budiono, said the pair were found still strapped to their seats on the seabed on Friday. Their 11-month-old daughter, Park Geun-hye, remains missing. Let's turn now to developments in France. The country has taken in 3 days of horrific developments in Islamist terror attacks, including a siege at a kosher supermarket that ended with 4 hostages being killed. New information is emerging about the gunman behind that attack, who was also himself gunned down by police. Amadei Kouliaby, who also fatally shot a policewoman last Thursday, was seen pledging allegiance to the Islamic State group in a posthumous video released on Sunday. In the 7-minute clip, Kouliaby said the attacks were meant to strike fear across France and that he worked with the Kouachi brothers on some things, but not all. Sharif and Saeed Kouachi, who struck the offices of Charlie Hebdo and killed 12 people last week, declared their loyalty to Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and were shot dead in a separate shootout east of Paris. Yet another suicide attack strikes horror in northeast Nigeria, and the bomber this time is believed to be a 9-year-old girl. At least 19 and as many as 20 people were killed in the market explosion in Maiduguri, a city in Borno State. Police told media explosives were strapped around the girl's body. No group has immediately claimed responsibility, but the Islamist militant group Boko Haram is being suspected. Boko Haram has waged a 5-year insurgency to establish an Islamic caliphate in the states of Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa in northeastern Nigeria.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2015 Asian Cup, where the Korean national football team won their first group stage match over the weekend 1-0 over Oman. Despite the win, there are still a lot of work to be done for the national team. Now, one of the problems the national team had during the 2014 Brazil World Cup was the inability to score when given the opportunity to do so. And it continues to be the problem as the Korean national football team managed just a single goal from Cho Young-chul despite 15 shots and 6 shots on goal throughout the match. But the good news is the defense continues to improve as they just allow 5 shots throughout the 90 minutes of the match. Meanwhile, the next match will take place on Tuesday against Kuwait. Now, each year, the KBL does their part in trying to make the All-Star game enjoyable to the fans and the players participating in the event. And what an exciting All-Star game it was on Sunday as the Dream Team, which consisted of players who are younger than 27, played the Magic Team, which consisted of the older players in the league. And it was the youth over experience as Ricardo Ratliff of Dream Team posted an incredible 29 points and 23 rebounds on the day, helping the Dream Team defeat the Magic Team 105-101. Despite a big game from Ricardo Ratliff, though, the MVP honors went to SK Knight's Kim Sun-hyung, who posted up 16 points and 6 assists and winning his second straight All-Star Game MVP. Now, despite an incredible weekend for Bae Sang-moon during the Hyundai Tournament of Champions, all the focus was on his military issue here in the nation. And things got even more serious with this latest threat. Now, according to the two-time PGA Tour winner, he won't return to Korea if he isn't given an extension on his visa, which will delay his mandatory military service for a bit longer. The 29-year-old, who holds permanent residency in the States, is required to return to Korea this month, but has been requesting an extension on his visa, which will allow him to play on the PGA Tour for a bit longer. And while it might be the last resort, some believe that he might apply for U.S. citizenship to continue playing golf without serving his mandatory military service in Korea. Now, one of the fastest growing sport in the world is mixed martial arts. And if you are a mixed martial artist, one of the techniques you should learn is jiu-jitsu. So naturally, the popularity of jiu-jitsu is also rising throughout the world. So much so, the martial art will be added to the 2018 Asian Games in Jakarta. Now, according to a report from the North European Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu website, the martial art will most likely be added to the Asian Games for the first time ever come 2018 Asian Games in Jakarta. However, despite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu being the more popular variation of the sport, European Jiu-Jitsu will be added to the Asian Games. And while there are some differences between the two, mixed martial arts fans are getting excited as they hope this will be a first step towards making mixed martial arts an Olympic sport as well. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Well, the weather got icy cold again this morning. The sensory temperature in the capital and the surrounding areas have dropped to near -10 degrees Celsius. So be sure to dress extra warmly before heading out this morning. But afternoon highs will gradually rise, reaching to the similar highs to the yesterday. And lots of sunshine and clear skies are ahead today thanks to the high pressure front. But the dry weather will continue to grip the eastern parts of the peninsula with dry weather advisory still in effect. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. Now, the low in Seoul is kicking off at -8, but the high will climb up to 2, which is about the seasonal average range. While Daegu and Gwangju should peak at 6 and 5, and Busan will climb up to 8 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island will rise to 7, while Daejeon and Dokdo will be getting up to 3 and 2 respectively. Now, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's going to do it for now. Korea Today is coming up at the top of the hour, 7 a.m. Korea time. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.